10th, the worst season in the club's era, Manchester United ended the 2024-2025 season with a win against Aston Villa. Finally, United crossed the 40 points, of course, barrel. However, it will still go down as Manchester United worst season. A trophyless campaign that will also mean that United will not play European football for the first time in almost a decade. However, what will be the fate of some key stars as Ruben Amorim somehow told them to their face that look for club and you will play next season, because in my Manchester United team, I will make plenty of changes. Football Temple brought to you by Azar Studios. It is time to look at how your teams performed during the 2024-2025 season. And first off, it's no doubt the most successful club, if I'm allowed to put it that way, in English football, Manchester United. Old glory. I mean, an old taker. I won't call them this morning because they don't get them again. Now, before they get them, what used to be their bragging rights, we are the most successful team in English football in terms of league title, has now been equaled by Liverpool. Well, I'm not alone to do this. I've got a Manchester United, one who is passionate about the club, one who doesn't hold back when he wants to criticize Manchester United, one who called the team crybabies at the beginning of the season and said Amorim is the man to lead them into the glory days. But after 28 matches in the Premier League and about 30 games plus or even 40 games plus for Ruben Amorim in his first season, is he the man to lead Manchester United to the glory days? Ernest joins us on set this lovely, lovely day, and we'll be talking Manchester United and all that transpired in the 2024-2025 season. Ernest, it's good to have you join us. First, Manchester United, your darling Manchester United, what a season.
Thank you for having me in the house. Manchester United is really in a state of imbroglio.
Come again.
They are in a state of imbroglio.
Make I Google that word.
They are
imbroglio.
Yes, they are in a state of comatose. So the team is just almost finished. So for me, it is a big disaster for Manchester United to be struggling or to struggle just to get 42 points. However, the coach Amorim is not to be blamed. He's not fully to be blamed because these were players he inherited. Let's not forget that he came in around November, so there was no preseason. He did not sign in his own players. Manchester United, they're struggling with FFP and thereabout. So Amorim is not fully to be blamed. However, he has his own part of the blame because I was doing my statistics and I compared Amorim with Unai Emery. In your last interview when you came around, I told the interviewer, I said, I would have chosen Unai Emery to be Manchester United
ahead of Ruben Amorim.
Ahead of Ruben Amorim. You understand? Had it been it was Amorim wouldn't. Had it been it was Unai Emery, he wouldn't have lost that Europa League. Unai Emery is someone that is conscious of titles. Let's not forget his take at Sevilla and the rest. So, however, I'm ruling out Amorim. Amorim is a title-winning coach, but he has his own fair share. As I earlier said, comparing Amorim with Unai Emery. Unai Emery took Aston Villa that has no financial power compared to Manchester United.
Quarterfinals.
Now, he took Aston Villa from, I think, October 22nd, 2022. He took Aston Villa from 17th position, where Steven Gerrard left them, to 7th position. He qualified them for Europe, despite their lackadaisical play. Now, Ruben Amorim met Manchester United at 14th position.
And he finished 15th.
And he was only 4 points. He was adrift of Champions League spots. 1 point adrift of Europa League spots.
When he took over the job.
And this is a squad that is almost, after 2 or 3 teams, they have the highest wage bill. And Ruben Amorim kept on struggling during the last season because the season has ended. So I believe let's give him time. I am always of that school of thought that you will have to give a coach time.
Okay.
Like Eric Ten Hag, I said it from the beginning, give him time. But when I said fire, I think it wasn't up to 2 weeks Manchester United fired him.
Well, we'll come back to, of course, Ruben Amorim, but let's look at Manchester United realistically this season. 4 competitions, if I'm allowed to say. The Community Shield is not a competition. Of course, that was the curtain raiser, which, if I'm not mistaken, United lost to Manchester City at the start of the season. But you had the Carabao Cup, you had the FA Cup, you had the Premier League, of course, and the Europa League. Now, with the Premier League, like rightly mentioned, Eric Ten Hag started the job for Manchester United, got fired after... I think they lost to West Ham United 2-1 in the Premier League. I think match day 9 or thereabout. He left the job and then came in interim capacity. Ruben van Nistelrooy. He had 2 games in that capacity. He drew Chelsea, beat Leicester City convincingly. We thought United were on the right track. The Eric Ten Hag was the problem. Then came in Ruben Amorim. Of course, the first game was against Ipswich. We know what happened. 1-1. United started like a house on fire. Scored, I think, almost in the first minute. Through Marcus Rashford. And then 1-1. But you look at the juxtapose it to how Manchester United's season went and how Ruben Amorim took the boys in charge. About 27 games for Ruben Amorim, thereabout, or 28 in the Premier League. He was only able to just muster 7 wins in the Premier League. Now, no matter how much you say it's a coach that did not have preseason with these players, let's assume you turn October to your own preseason. Let's assume you use November to do preseason. You now use December to back it up. Come on. In January, United should be producing results. February, they should at least be producing results. March, April, and then we ended the season in May, and only 7 wins. How do you describe that a club as big as Manchester United had 42 points after 38 games, an average of 1 point, just there about 1.12 per game? That's terrible.
As I earlier said, the greatest undoing of Ruben Amorim was to let Ruud van Nistelrooy go. However,
he should have kept him as assistant.
Yes, he should have kept Ruud van Nistelrooy as his assistant. But according to him, he has his own assistants or people that will help him in making these players to adapt to his formation. Now, you came in, you met a side that was just coming out from various losses, and they were having a winning streak. At least in the 4 games of Ruud van Nistelrooy, Manchester United won 3 and drew 1. So I expected him to continue in that ladder. At least, okay, I've seen a winning formation. Let me continue. But at the end of the season, I would like to adapt to my own formation. Let's take a leaf from Antonio Conte. Antonio Conte came in and met a side. He continued with that pattern. Before Antonio Conte came in, the last 4 or 5 games of Chelsea, they won. He took over from Chelsea. He continued with that pattern. And he saw that is not a title-winning formation.
And he switched.
And then he said, I took this team that I have to play my plan D. And that was what helped Chelsea to win. So I least expected Ruben Amorim to continue with that formation, knowing fully well how lackadaisical these players are. These players are not hungry. Let's take a holistic view of these players. I don't want to compare these players to Man City because it's like comparing heaven and earth. I still don't want to compare these players to Arsenal because it's like comparing the deep blue sea and just a stream. I want to compare these players with Tottenham players.
Okay, that's the level where Manchester United are.
No, I just want to compare them with Tottenham players. Manchester United ended the season 15th. Fine. Tottenham ended the season 17th. But I bet you that Manchester United starting lineup, that only Bruno Fernandes will make that Tottenham starting 11. If you want, we can go, we can compare them. Onana with Vicario. You will always go for Vicario.
Poro anytime over Manchester United.
Poro over Dalot. You will always choose Sa over Casemiro or Bissouma, and Kulusevski over Ahmad, Solanke over
Højlund.
yes.
In fact, combine it with Zexi. Combine both of them.
Okay, Solanke over this person, Højlund, Son over
Even
Garnacho.
Brennan Johnson.
Even Brennan Johnson. Okay, let's remove Kulusevski and then you play Brennan Johnson. You're still better off than Ahmad. Okay, Son is still better off than any other Manchester United player. The Ugarte everybody celebrated, even the Bentancur is better off. Is it the Van de Ven with delete? Or a Romero?
So what exactly now went wrong?
Wrong signings affected this team. For me, people have been busy blaming the board. I take a holistic view. The board has spent over $1.43 billion or billion pounds rather, because in UK they make it of pounds. 1.43 billion pounds. This is not a child's play. 1.43 billion pounds on transfers, and they have spent 50 million pounds in sacking managers. The Manchester United team that was an attack team is now a sack team. Before we were blaming Chelsea for that. But at least Chelsea, they were doing it and then they were seeing results. But us, it's as if the players who even sold out, they are far better off than what we went into the market to recruit. However,
Scott McTominay,
you can't look at McTominay. Now compare the McTominay to the Ugarte.
McTominay, best Serie A player of the season, Serie A League title.
He's still the best Serie A player of the season. You understand? Then you go into the attack. Even the Welbeck we sold is far better off than the Højlund. The Ziggy, the Elanga we threw away and we said he's not scoring goals, is the one that after Chris Wood, he took Nottingham Forest on his shoulders. So Manchester United need to have a holistic view of themselves.
Okay. Now, since you brought the board, let's go to Ratcliffe and his whole ideology. When he came in, of course, cut down a lot of things, said there were too much of waste in the club in terms of finance. He brought out his own style and wanted everything to be shrewd. United went into the market only in the winter and brought in Patrick Dogu, which, of course, to a large extent, maybe he wanted a player that suits his style a bit. But transfer in, transfer out, United have not gotten it right, both on the field and off the field of play. Is it a problem? Because if you say don't blame the board, it's difficult when, even out of the field of play, the club is still struggling financially.
Now, let's not forget FFP. FFP has been an issue for every club. I think with the exception of Arsenal, that is comfortable. FFP have been a very big issue. And FFP is not just a one-season thing, or it's not a coach thing. It is a continual thing, what you have done in your previous years. You understand? We can take a leaf from Chelsea. Chelsea had to sell a huge number of players so as to balance their book. Same as there are clubs as well that needed to sell good players. I think this guy from Brighton, Minter from Brighton needed to leave Newcastle so that Newcastle can balance their books as well.
Yeah.
Same with Solanke. Solanke needed to leave Bournemouth for Bournemouth to balance their books. So this is a very big issue where you are telling the owners not to interfere, not to bring in their personal money into play. However, Manchester United has been mismanaged for years. So you don't blame Ratcliffe for cutting costs. The club is only rolling on past glory. What do I mean? You can't expect this club to just come in and sign a 100 million player and then they pay outrightly. Okay. Look at the Kounhas deal. You have to pay that Kounhas deal for like 5 years. You are just signing him for 62 million and then you want to pay him for 5 years. Look at the Ziggy deal. Study the Ziggy deal. Manchester United, Ziggy was to come to Manchester United for 40 million. But because Man United cannot pay the 40 million at once, they had to spread it for like 5 years to pay 42 million. So it is telling heavily on them. However, my problem is not spreading those deals. It's by signing good players that fits into the team, that understands the culture, the modus operandi of Manchester United.
Okay. Ernest, let's go to the United on the field of play. Position in the league, 15th position. EFL Cup, crash out in the quarterfinal. FA Cup, the 5th round. And of course, Europa League, an underwhelming final against Spurs. Top scorer, Bruno Fernandes, 19 goals. Bruno Fernandes again, top assist with 20 goals, 39 goals contribution, which in all honesty might look good on paper. But when you look at when you needed Bruno to step up in the biggest games, in the final of the Europa League, he was off it. At the end of the season, after the 2-0 win over Aston Villa, Garnacho is set to leave the club. John Evans has been told, of course, it's time to say bye-bye. In the first place, who signs Evans in 2025? Who has Evans as centre-back in 2025? If we are being honest with ourselves. There's a huge Jack Ericsson has also gone. Lindelof, humble servant to United. I think Jose Mourinho brought him in.
Yes, 2016.
You know, so he now leaves the club, after a lot of years, almost about a decade at the club. Where next for United? Garnacho has been told he should likely find a club. Al Hilal are on the heels of Bruno Fernandes. Where next for Manchester United on the field of play? What are the kind of player? Because I also don't think Cunha is the best bet for United. But of course, it's what they can lay their hands on. A team that is not going to play in Europe cannot attract a Victor Osimhen. A team that will not play in Europe might not be able to attract a Gyökeres, because I don't know why you will leave Sporting Lisbon, that you play in the Champions League, and then come and play for Manchester United, that you only play Carabao Cup, the FA Cup in January, and a league title that you cannot win.
Okay. Manchester United is bigger than Sporting Lisbon any day, anytime.
Definitely.
So, thank you. Now, regardless of what is happening
to Manchester United, past glory.
No, Manchester United is a big team any day, anytime. You can't trade Manchester United for Sporting. So, my only problem with Manchester United is, what is the convincing power? If this were to be your first season without a Champions League, you can convince good players that, okay, it's just only one season. We have never been out of Champions League sports. Let's just come in. We believe subsequently with your efforts, you will make a Champions League side. So for Cunha is the best bet for Manchester United. Cunha is what Manchester United needs. My only problem with Cunha is his attitude. Cunha is what Manchester United needs. Any day, anytime, is far better off than Garnacho. We saw his contribution for the past 2 seasons. Most especially this season that just ended. He has 15 goals. He's not their number 9 striker, but he has 15 goals and 10 assists. So, Cunha is a very good player. Another person Manchester United should be eyeing is Mbeumo. But I really, I don't know how much Mbeumo will cost Manchester United.
From Brentford?
Yes, from Brentford. I think we really need to sell Onana as well. Already there's a sign. Already there's you sign Savic. Savic of is it Torino or Bologna? Yeah, that their number 1 goalkeeper. I think he's 6'4". And Savic has really shown.
But wait, let's come back to Onana. Is Onana that bad a goalkeeper?
Onana is.
How so?
See, Onana is bad.
2 years ago, Onana was the best goalkeeper in Europe. Is it a case of Manchester United making Onana a bad goalkeeper?
Let's not forget, Sommer as well is still the best goalkeeper for the past 2 years.
Because honest, let's look at it from this angle. What if it is United who are making these players become bad players? And not the other way around. Because, wait now, Ernest. Critical example is the player what's his name at Nottingham Forest that you mentioned, Anthony Elanga. Look at his form. Look at the form of Scott McTominay. No, wait. Look at the form of Scott McTominay.
Okay.
These guys were practically allowed to leave Manchester United because United felt they gotten better players.
Okay.
And these guys have gone to other clubs and have become the best players. Now look at Onana while he was at Inter Milan, while he was at Ajax.
Okay.
I don't think we'll be having the same conversation. Now United want De Gea out of the club because they felt that it was no longer what they needed. They needed an upgrade. But today, De Gea is still doing well with Fiorentina, even at his age. So is it a case of Manchester United making Onana look bad? Because if you have a good defense, the defense will protect you. But you don't even have a defense to protect Onana, and every time United concede, Onana is the cheap scapegoat.
Oh, okay. For David De Gea, let's not forget, David De Gea has been Manchester United Player of the Season for consecutively 4 times, or for 4 straight seasons. And Jose Mourinho made a statement. If a goalkeeper becomes your Player of the Season at the end of the season, knows that team is, just know that the team is finished. Now, I perfectly agree that Manchester United have a defensive problem, but their common saves. Onana, let's not still forget that if you say let's bring it down to statistics, Onana has conceded the simplest goal ever in the history of EPL this season. You know, he has the highest mistake rather leading to goals this season. Same with last season. So you can't come to a club like Manchester United knowing fully well that you still have a scoring problem At least there's a law in business that says, if I will not make profit, let me not make loss. If I know I'm not going to score, I'm having difficulties in scoring,
At least
then let me not
goalkeeper that will
concede.
not. Okay.
You understand? Let me not concede. Now you talk about Onana in Ajax. I still have problem with Onana's character because he's almost of this like of Emiliano Martinez. They like this busybody or notice me kind of.
And I in job
You
now.
understand? They like
If
this
you good,
notice
you good.
me kind of. Onana is not a good goalkeeper. We only fell prey to the media antics. You understand? We only fell prey to the media antics, and knowing fully well that Erik ten Hag did not do his scouting well, or did not do his monitoring well. Because if we should take back to Ajax, is the same Onana that kept in that Ajax post when Man United defeated them 2-0. And I remember vividly, I was in Port Harcourt. I told somebody, if it were to be that Cameroon goalkeeper, that Man United will win Europa League. And we saw how fantastic the second goalkeeper was during their semi-finals, Ajax semi-finals. But hold and behold, because he's a big name, they featured him during the finals, and the rest was story.
But now, went on the same thing, got them to the Champions League final.
The same thing with he had a character issues. Let's not forget, he was caught with nicotine. That made them to suspend him from football for 2 years. Maybe nobody is talking about that angle. Based on that, Manchester United shouldn't have even signed him. If we're talking about integrity issue, now he went to Inter Milan. Inter Milan for the past 4 years has been a team that considered the least in Europe. So when this person was there, Handanovic was there. He was the best goalkeeper in Europe. He considered the least goals in Europe. We brought in Onana. Inter Milan brought in Onana because I'm not their fan. Inter Milan brought in Onana, and the same thing happened. Okay, if Onana was that good,
so it was the system.
Wait, if Onana was that good, it would have shown that somebody that was this good left the system.
So it was the system and not Onana.
It was Inter Milan system
and not Onana.
Let's not forget they considered the least again in Champions League.
Okay, Ernest, to wrap it, let's talk about the future for Amorim. You want him to stay or go?
Amorim should stay.
Can he deliver Manchester United
Amorim will.
European football next season?
Because that
should be the target. You can't win the Premier League. Or do you want to win the Premier League next season, Ernest?
Hey.
No. Do you want to win the Premier League?
It's a big job.
You can't.
It's a big job.
And let's not forget, a million naira on Manchester United not win the Premier League next season.
I can't doubt that, but
we could go and open bets. We could go and open bets. I'll put a million naira, whatever amount you put. Manchester United will not win the Premier League next season.
Normally, I'll be biased in this analysis.
No, but, of course, you are coming from a United perspective as a fan.
Yes, but Manchester United not playing the Champions League, you have less matches to go, or lesser matches to go rather. You will not be playing the 63 matches or 64
You only play weekends and that's all.
You will play weekend and that is all. Lesser injuries, lesser fatigue. So I see no reason why
you cannot win.
Manchester United cannot compete. And Nottingham Forest, for example, came from 17th position and they are going to Europe. Presently, they are going to Europe. So if Nottingham Forest that does not have the same financial chase power with Manchester United can present themselves this way, if Aston Villa that came from 17th position and are qualified for Europa League can as well do that, talk more of Manchester United.
That came from 6th position last season to 15th position.
Yes, a child can go backwards to bounce back. Yes. So let's give Amorim his financial power. For me, I would expect him to sign a Muniz of Crystal Palace so that's our defense. We have players that are very good.
Chelsea can offer you player Chalobah.
No, I don't want Chelsea's players because they are not good. They are not good. But
after all, you've been doing deals with Chelsea. So or Disasi.
No.
Or Badiashile. They can offer you any of the three.
I need Cole Palmer. I need Cole Palmer.
You just said that you don't have the financial muscle. No, so how do you sign Cole Palmer?
I need Cole Palmer. And we've actually want to give Manchester United a very good player from your side. However, we have players in EPL that are fantastic this season, but I believe clubs are not seeing them. We have the Guaye of Crystal Palace. That defender is good. Debere Chieze is good. The Kunha is good. The Muniz.
But you're
as
not
well
playing
is good.
European football. How do you attract Eberechi?
You don't need to play European football. Is he playing European football?
Yes, Crystal Palace will play the Europa
Yes,
League.
they will. But since he moved over to Crystal Palace, let's not forget he was rejected by Man City. He was rejected by Arsenal. He trained with Arsenal. Arsenal refused to sign him.
That's why he's bouncing back with Palace.
And that is why he's bouncing back with Palace. But however, if Manchester United offer him a good deal, I think Eberechi will move.
Well, we wait to see how that pans out for Manchester United and their quest to next season. For Ernest, Ruben Amorim must remain at the club, and the club will back him financially for them to continue to succeed. But I also agree on the fact that if a club is playing lesser games, there's a huge chance that they have what it takes to compete. A typical example was Antonio Conte's Chelsea. The fact that Chelsea were not active in Europe was an opportunity for Conte to go on to win the league title in his debut season at Chelsea. Can United bounce back next season? Well, the team is off to Kuala Lumpur already, where they'll be having a post-season, of course, a training camp. Few players were dropped, but the likes of Andre Onana and Garnacho, whose future remained a doubt, were part of that team. Bruno Fernandes, will he stay or go? Al Hilal want to offer him 700 a week for him to move to the Saudi Arabian League. Tempting money for Bruno, but he loves the club. If there's something I must give to Bruno Fernandes, is the fact that he loves the club and wants to continue to play at Manchester United. The season has not been good for United, who finished 15th on the table with 42 points, crashed out in the quarterfinals of the EFL Cup, crashed out in the 5th round of the FA Cup, I beg your pardon, and then lost in the final of the Europa League. Scoring Manchester United, Ernest, is it a C or a complete F this season?
This season? Over 100?
Grade it, A, B, C, D, F.
2.5.
So that's an F.
Is he an F or below an F?
Oh, so below an F.
Yes. 2.5 over 100.
It's all United finish.
Yeah, 2.5.
That's your grading system for United.
If I'm their lecturer, 2.5 over 100.
And if you teach in a Nigerian university, I'm not sure if you go last 2 years. If you teach for Nigerian university, I doubt say you go reach 2 years for that system.
2.5.
You know what it means to come school, bath up, go class, sit down for class. You can't give person 2 over 100.
See.
So you say I buy soap, I bath up.
I know someone that wrote jump. I know someone that wrote jump and the person scored 0.
No, it's not possible.
I am telling you the gospel truth.
Let's say the person enter just.
I know someone in this life that wrote jump and the person scored 0 in this life.
Football Temple brought to you by Azar Studios. Hope Manchester United no go score 0, but come on, 0 over in jump. This is football, not but 0. Come on, that's
it is very unbelievable, but I know someone that wrote jump, and the person, if this thing goes viral, the person will know I'm referring to him.
One person scores 0 for jump.
And the funniest part,
the person has parents. Because we need to ask the right question.
And the funniest part is that the person said it's a mistake. And the person came and asked me to define 0. And 0 means you scored nothing. That was my definition.
So that's how you wrap Manchester United season.
Manchester United.
No, say it to the camera. Look at the camera.
Manchester United, in fact, they are in a sympathetic state, in a shambolic state, in a state of imbroglio. They are finished. Like, they need to take their time, go into the transfer. When I say it, people doubt if I'm a Manchester United fan. But I bet you that since 2010, since 2010, I have not missed one Manchester United match. One Manchester United match. I'm not telling you I'm a Man United fan since 2010. Since 2010, I have not missed one of it. So there's no match you come to tell me that I don't know. So, in fact, this team, Amorim needs to take his time. You see the way they soak clothes in hypo or jig. That is how they need to soak Manchester United.
That's how they soak Manchester United.
That is how they need to soak Manchester United.
Well, for him, it's a 2 over 100, and that's
2.5.
2.5 over 100,
yes.
And that's a big F for Manchester United season. Can Ruben Amorim lead this team back next season? That's the big question for Manchester United fans. United will not be at the Club World Cup. So it means that they have about 2 months to prepare for the start of the new season. Football Temple brought to you by Azar Studios.